me add that when you uh, when you rezoned, when was it, 2002?
Mhm.
Uh, we supported that. The original plan was, once again, the county said, well, it's going to have to be 85% one occupant. Gannett's going out of business, so obviously that wasn't going to work anymore. So you all asked to open it up. We said, well, that's okay with us. And in fact, we came to the meeting and supported you at the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors. So um, we expect to be treated kindly in this.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's obviously a lot of history on this site, but I think our desire is to work with you on what's being proposed.
Okay, well, you could get rid of that building. That would, the other one, well, I can't speak for the board or anything, but the other one, didn't have it. So anyway, I'll leave it there.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Uh, see, it looks like uh Marilee Pierce, you still have your hand raised. I didn't know if you had another question. If
Sorry,
you
I
do,
wasn't fast enough to lower it. Thanks.
oh, it's all good. Thank you. Are there any additional questions? I see a few comments in the I see a few comments. One is from Connie, and she says that all applicants are converting office uses to residential uses. And she again suggests that the county should look into infrastructure impacts, roads and utilities, fire access, etc. And please also look into increasing public amenities, open space, schools, overcrowding in McLean and Vienna areas due to increased residents. And
And just to clarify, Steve, so for this project, we're not looking to convert any of the office.
existing office.
Yeah, it would be frankly new office, but also new residential, but it would not be impacting the existing.
Hmm. That's understood. Thank you. Thanks for the clarification, Scott. I'm sure everyone else appreciated too. So,
And Steve, if I may, to Connie's question or comment, and we got one I think a little bit earlier from Maria that was similar
mhm.
regarding just project impacts. I would note, and I think Steve had this in his earlier in the presentation, but if these nominations do advance for further review as plan amendments, that's exactly what we do next, is what we call an impact analysis. And we do that twice actually. So we'll do a plan amendment level analysis that looks at the adopted comprehensive plan, compares it to the proposals, whether that's an area study looking at all the office areas of Tysons, or the individual nominations. We'll still do one. And it's one of the benefits of having this kind of regular cycle of review, is that we can see kind of at one time, what is going on in a given area and do a cumulative analysis. And so there's a benefit there in terms of being able to look at things a little bit more holistically than we might otherwise be able to do. But then, once we have the plan amendments adopted, then there's another more project specific impact analysis that gets conducted in the course of the rezoning application. So those are great comments, and that's very much kind of the role of the plan amendment and zoning processes, to look at, evaluate, and if need be, mitigate project impact. So thank you for those comments.
And thank you, Graham. So seeing no more hands for this nomination, we'll move on to our final nomination of this evening. And this is nomination CPN 2025, Roman numeral 2, PR 004, or PR4. The subject site is on Corporate Ridge Road at the intersection with Margarity Road and adjacent to the access ramp from Leesburg Pike onto Capitol Beltway. The comprehensive plan identifies the site as being in the Tysons East District's Beltway 7, Route 7 subdistrict, and it is planned for development in the office land use category, which recommends almost exclusively office uses, along with similar non-residential uses that support offices. At the site-specific level, this site has a baseline recommendation for office, support retail and service uses, office with support retail and service uses up to 0.85 FAR. An alternative plan option allows for expansion of the office building on tax map 39-2 double circle 62 double circle 1 62B up to 0.90 up to 0.9 FAR and a maximum height of up to 135 feet. And development under this alternative plan option prioritizes the maintenance of the existing buffer and screening area to avoid any adverse visual impacts to adjacent residential uses, as well as architectural compatibility with the existing buildings that are currently developed and mitigation of transportation impacts. The nomination proposes a new option for redevelopment of residential uses up to a density of 14 dwelling units per acre, which would consist of up to 203 townhomes and or stacked townhomes. And the nomination states that the proposal will facilitate the creation of new urban parks and connect with nearby pedestrian facilities, including the pedestrian bridge over the Capitol Beltway or I-495. So for the planning considerations that staff has identified at this point, CPN 2025 PR Roman numeral 2-004 proposes complete redevelopment of a high-rise office use for residential uses at 14 dwelling units per acre, which involves significant changes in design, structural design, and building form at reduced heights on a site that is currently planned for office and supporting uses. The conceptual plans propose a significant alteration in the shape, size, and condition of the existing forested areas that are identified to be maintained as buffers for the neighboring residential uses. And the subject site is located at the eastern boundary of a portion of I-495 that currently lacks a sound wall, which presents a critical environmental and land use concern over the potential for transportation generated noise levels to impact future residents as well as current residents and also users of the proposed parks. So all of these factors could potentially affect the subject site's current role in providing a transition between Tysons and the surrounding suburban neighborhoods. Finally, the fact that there are 3 separate nominations tonight proposing development of residential uses in areas of Tysons that are currently designated for office use and all adjacent to either the Dulles Toll Road or the Capitol Beltway. This may indicate that the need for a more logical, the need for studying a more logical planning area that would consider the appropriate balance of non-residential uses, environmental, transportation, and recreational factors, along with other elements of land use changes for the office land use category more holistically. So that concludes our staff's considerations, and we'll next move to the nominator's presentation. And I think we have a representative for the nomination that's here tonight.
Yeah, hello. My name is Steve Evans. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. What we were going to do is we wanted to use the materials we submitted for the nomination. If I could share, then I would share my screen unless you prefer to pull something up. Let me send you a request. There you go. You're on mute, Steve.
Can you see what I'm sharing? I'm sharing.
Yes. We were hoping maybe to go to the context aerials that we had as part of the nomination.
Okay.
We had 3 of them. So if we get, and then I'll introduce the team. My name's Steve Evans. I'm with Rubenstein Partners. We own 2000 Corporate Ridge, and my colleague Craig Zolot is on.
I've responded to your request.
Okay.
So you should be able to.
Let's see. There we go. If I can get that right. Share. Was that sharing?
There you go.
Okay. So Steve Evans and Craig Zolot with Rubenstein Partners, we own 2000 Corporate Ridge, and then Mike Van Atta and Greg Regal are on with McGuire Woods, our land use council. And this nomination consists of our building plus the adjacent building, which is 2010 Corporate Ridge. That's owned by an out-of-town owner, but Greg and Mike represent that owner at this juncture, and we are coordinating a consolidated nomination to consider ultimately redeveloping both of the buildings for the residential townhouses that we'll get to in a minute. Just for a quick background, we have been involved in the Tysons community for a couple of decades, owning other office buildings. In this particular situation, we were a lender and made a loan to another owner on 2000 Corporate Ridge. That other owner actually in 2023 got a rezoning approval to repurpose 2000 Corporate Ridge for live work apartment units. So a precedent has been set to redevelop that building, more the interior of the building for live work residential units. And as part of that, there's different approvals and proffers that were finalized with that, which you'll see in the plan here a little bit as we've tried to apply a few of those. So what we foreclosed, the prior borrower did not proceed with their plan because the capital markets changed, interest rates went up. Last year, they decided to get out of the property. We foreclosed and we became the owner. And in becoming the owner, we've taken a clean look to see what makes the most sense here on the property. And that's resulted in us developing the townhouse plan. But for context here, as we look around the area, the purpose of this first plan is going to show the pedestrian and the trail facilities and how to get to the metro, the two metro stations, as well as crossing over to Tysons Corner Center. And then also a little zooming in a little bit more with the pedestrian bridge over to Tysons Corner Center and how the trail system works. This will also illustrate how we are next to the Beltway, so we have to spend some time focusing on the sound attenuation, but it'll also illustrate how the proposal to change to townhouses seems to be very compatible with other lower density residential in the area. Then if we get a little closer in to the plan itself, really the yellow here focuses in on some pedestrian on-site, and I'm going to zoom in one more time, or let me bring your attention to this triangular portion up in the top left of this plan, which ultimately gets you to the pedestrian bridge. And then as we get closer, we have two plans, which really is just subtle differences in the particular townhouse unit mix and widths to try and reflect different price points for potential home buyers and different affordability levels. Well, one of the focuses we've looked at is to look at this a park system and a trail system to get up and over the bridge to the metro, as well as other access points in and around the area. And then the other component I'd point out here is there's the yellow line in the middle. Will illustrate the two different properties. What we're trying to do is be sensitive to removing a lot of impervious areas now with office buildings that can't be leased, garages that are impervious, and trying to recapture more green space. And then we're paying attention to the area in between the two properties for additional green space. And there's topography and other design and engineering issues we'll get to down the road. But we feel that this plan and then this second plan, there's just two subtle differences to really focus on, makes this very compatible with the community. And we are hopeful that by working with staff and others, that this will be looked at and well received. I don't know, Mike, if you want to add anything to that, because I'm sure there's some other important factors I could have skipped.
Sure, Steve, I thought that you hit all the major points there, so I don't have a whole lot to add, but thank you everyone for having us tonight and letting us finish out this meeting. Some of you may know, again, that there was a recent zoning entitlement on this property to look at adaptive reuse of the existing office buildings there. And, unfortunately, due to economic circumstances, that was not able to move forward with the previous ownership. I would say that, one sort of benefit of that is, as we're talking about the idea of office in Tysons and what the future of it is, I know that's come up on really all three of these nominations. One thing to keep in mind for this site is, the Board of Supervisors has essentially, and the county staff have sort of acknowledged that a different direction on this property from office, could make sense here with that approval for adaptive reuse. And this is really just taking that a step further. You've got the opportunity with the adjacent property there to really have some more synergy there. And then again, as Steve said, with the product type, we think that's actually sort of better compatibility overall, frankly, with the overall unit residential use mix here. So, high level, I think is early on in the process. We look forward to digging into the details on the site design and making sure, we can really reinforce that compatibility and all the positive aspects of the previous approvals. But again, really welcome your feedback and thanks for your time.
Thank you, Mike. So next, we'd like to open up to see if there's anyone from the public who has any comments.
Like a T
We
halt.
see T. Halter.
Yeah. Hi. I live right next door to this development. And I wasn't able to go to the original presentation where it would be work, life, and repurpose those two buildings. So when I look out my dining room window, I can see those buildings and they're quite lovely on the inside. I've actually been on the inside for training programs. So can you explain this diagram? This looks very high density to me, and it will definitely add to traffic at that intersection at the end of Corporate Ridge and McGarity, and then heading up to Leesburg Pike. And there's already backups happening when you try to get onto Leesburg during peak commuting times. So what have you considered with traffic? And now where the town homes, I assume they're stackables or something, there is a broken up asphalt path with a lot of trees. Is that row on McGarity right flush against McGarity? Is there no, it doesn't look like there's any 200-foot frontage or anything like that.
I can try and address some of our
Sure.
thoughts going into this. There's a sidewalk on McGarity. There is that broken up asphalt trail. There's trees. There's utility lines. This is a concept plan, so we'll have to do some fine tuning to the plan to make sure everything works and is compatible. But there is a sidewalk on the visual that is on the screen now, so that we have tried to focus on connectivity so that you can walk. I don't know if that's answering your question. It's going to be a little relocated to the meandering asphalt trail now, but the houses and the sidewalk will just be reworked in that area. And I think if you live there, there's a steep drop off off of McGarity, so we have to be kind of looking at that to see what can work within the dimension between McGarity and the steep drop off.
It's a very steep drop off, and it doesn't look like it. It looks like you would have to do major work on that site. First, you have to get rid of the office buildings, which is a huge undertaking, the asphalt parking lot, the garages. I mean, it's a huge complex. there's a lot of old growth trees and ravines, and this is a huge project, a huge change to the neighborhood in terms of density.
Well, in terms of density, and then to hit your question on traffic, we also will need to do a traffic study. None of that has been done yet. But I don't think I'm speaking out of school by saying usually the traffic patterns in residential will be more varied throughout the day than an office building, where you have a mad rush in the morning and a mad rush in the evening. So we will certainly be looking at that, but the expectation would be that as we look at the traffic study and the road system, hopefully there would be less of an impact than if these buildings were fully occupied. I neglected to note, like, one of the buildings is half empty and the other one is like 70% empty. So to a certain extent right now, the traffic is light, but it's just because of the economy and the office situation.
Right, yeah, and even before the pandemic, I didn't ever really notice much traffic because of those two office buildings, but I can see a lot of traffic with, I mean, this looks very similar to Union Park on McGarity and Tysons Ridge. When you walk into those developments, they used to have, especially Union Park was formerly McLean Commons. And there's tons of green space, very nice apartment buildings. And now with these new stackable townhomes, what I see is they're just crammed in there with very narrow streets and the green space is minimal. So I do have concerns about it. I know you'll go ahead anyway, but I would like to see a really nice sidewalk on that side along McGarity, because right now there's nothing. How long will it take? I mean, it's going to generate so much dust and so much actual noise. Besides, I already hear the traffic from the Beltway, but just a lot of particulates in the air from that. That's a major project.
Well, what I should note that I also didn't note is, even though we're the owner, what we are doing is we are working now to try and find an actual developer who would then step in and take over the process with our participation, but take more of a lead role. So I think we with that party, and that isn't known yet, we'd work with you and the community to try and be responsive to all of the issues that arise with the redevelopment. So we'd be happy to be talking with you and meeting with you at your convenience.
Sure. And when the previous owners, which I understand from your presentation, had to go through foreclosure, they had a meeting where they invited board members from the condo associations and the neighborhood, which I found great. So I appreciate you presenting it tonight. I don't know if anyone's here from my neighborhood, but I appreciate your presentation on it because I was very curious about it. And it looks like it was a car dealership storage area for a lot of months too. So.
And we're happy. We did reach out. I don't know if you're with McLean Hills or McLean Chase, but we did reach out before this meeting and offered to meet with you all. So still willing to do that, and we can go from there. And yeah, right now, because the economy and nobody wants to go to these office buildings on the periphery, we are doing some interim use of some parking for a car dealer.
Yes, which is fine. And then one more thing about that trail that goes to across the Beltway, which gets used a lot by Pemmon Hills neighborhood and surrounding neighborhoods. Exactly where is that trail? That little pink squiggly line?
Well, the pink squiggly line does not exist right now. If you're obviously you're a neighbor, there is I'm going to call it's a steep hill. And part of this development would be taking into account the steep hill so that this could be constructed as part of the development, so that then you can tie into, I think it's Old Meadow as well as this development. And it really makes it the connectivity is much superior. That's the goal.
Okay. Yeah, because I walked back there over the weekend to see how you would do this, and it is a steep hill. So, okay. So So when you reached out to the boards, they didn't reply or respond? That to
We
you?
spoke with one and another one, they did not get back to us, but admittedly, it was a little short notice before
Sure,
this
sure.
was set up, but that's part of the process and we're happy to meet with the community.
That'd be great. Thank you very much. Appreciate the information.
Thank you. Next, it looks like we have Connie.
Oh, thanks. That was fast. I just thought about something. Made a comment earlier in the comment section about the site itself. It's like dead end. There's only one way to get in, and then you circle around. You have to come out on McGarity, which, as the previous neighbor said, it's pretty difficult during rush hours already. And my question is, as county evaluate this use in terms of compatibility with the use, seems to be appropriate because the adjacent houses are mostly 3-story, like garden apartment rentals. But there is indeed this need to think about appropriateness in terms of sound attenuation. The other thing that like for county to look into is, instead of creating another dead end neighborhood, could you please look into connecting this neighborhood to Old Meadows Road? Old Meadows Road right now is a dead end. As soon as you get on Old Meadows and go all the way down, there are all these neighborhoods that has arms up that you can't, arms down that you can't even cut through and get to McGarity Road, which makes it extremely difficult in terms of connectivity. Since this parcel is like a pocket pipe stand kind of development, please look into possibility of connecting Old Meadows.
Okay, thank you, Connie.
Sure thing.
It looks like T Halter, you still have your hand raised. I'm not sure if you
Yeah.
you
No,
have any more.
I can comment on the previous speaker.
Okay.
So I know exactly what she's talking about. There are gates, and those gates were installed a few years ago. And all those roads that she's referring to provide connectivity, those are private roads that we pay for to maintain, asphalt, the whole thing. And we used to have semis coming through our neighborhood, and it's all kinds of traffic, people speeding through our neighborhood. So I don't really see the feasibility of connecting I don't see the feasibility of doing that.
Okay. All right, thank you. So we have a few more comments that are in the chat. And I think Maria had a question about a change in the forested areas and wanted an explanation for that. As you see here, the kind of shape and size of these green spaces between the townhomes, kind of near the central area of the property, and also on the what would be in the southern end of the property near McGarity Road. If we look back at the aerial, there's just one of the considerations that staff is identifying for if this were to become an actual formal planning study for a plan amendment is that we'd need to look closely at the potential impacts of removing some of those forested areas, because right now for development or redevelopment, the redevelopment option for expansion of one of these office buildings, the comprehensive plan does recognize the need for maintaining those wooded buffers as they are identified as being important, again, in the role of this site as a transitional site for Tysons, for the transition of Tysons into the neighboring residential areas. So that's what that what that comment was about and what that consideration is about.
And
So, yeah.
we acknowledge that we'd have to study that more. The only initial comment is yes, on the McGarity side there, we have contemplated removing the forested area in between the two buildings due to the topography and the sort of storm water that's flowing through now. That would be less impacted, but we acknowledge that we need to study that.
Thanks, Steve. So let's see if there are any other questions. I'm sorry, someone just turned the lights off on me, but I can fix that. Let's see, just a second. Well, I thought I could. Here we go. All right, let's see. We have a question about what would be the percentage of green space on the property?
I don't know that we've calculated that yet at this early concept phase. I'm looking at the plan to see if there's something there on the right. Yeah, we'd have to kind of follow up on that.
I would offer that, I agree, we need to follow specifically on the green space and open space, but there is a requirement for, it's a county standard called urban park space. And so that's sort of a subset of green space that discusses publicly accessible recreational amenities. And there's a formulaic requirement based on the number of residents that would be here that would need to be hit. And our concept plans show that we would be exceeding those numbers. I think it varies a little bit between the two plans, but you're looking at I think 0.4 acres is the initial calculation here. But again, that's just for sort of actual recreational amenity areas. That doesn't necessarily count sort of tree buffer and stuff like that. So we can sharpen our pencils on the actual overall open space and green space numbers. I would also offer that we do need to study the tree areas. There is a lot of existing surface parked area on this property, particularly 2000 Corporate Ridge. And so you may actually see a reduction in impervious surface in some instances.
All right. Thanks, Mike. So let's see. Trying to see if there's anything. Looks like there was a question about will the Fairfax connector bus 703 be expanded? None of those types of questions are being answered at this time and at this phase in the process. If this project or any of the projects that we have seen nominated tonight were to become plan amendments, that is where the in-depth transportation studies would come into play. And a lot of those things would include looking at whether or not the current transit system and transit services that are provided in the areas of each of these sites would be adequate as they currently stand to support the proposed amount of land use changes and increased intensity or change in redevelopment changes in the type of land uses and development that are currently on these sites. So those aren't questions that the nominator has put their resources into answering as of yet, and also questions that the county would not ask at this time. So I think those are all the questions that were pertaining to this final nomination. Oh, I see T Halter has her hand up again. I'm not sure if it's a holdover or.
Yeah, I know that the issue that one of the previous neighborhood folks asked, that's a big issue in this neighborhood, is access to McGarity from Old Meadow. However, Lincoln Street is also being planned by Fairfax County, and that will extend from Old Meadow over the new Serpentine Trail and connect people to McGarity. So they will have that access that she's hoping for. I understand what they're saying. I get it, but it is being addressed.
Okay, thank you. So I think that concludes our discussion of the 3 nominations for tonight. And I just kind of wanted to get into our closing slide to speak on some of the next steps in the process. On the right-hand side of this slide, you can see the dates for the Planning Commission workshops and the markup session that are currently scheduled. And again, all the feedback that we've heard tonight and any subsequent feedback that you'd like to submit to the county will be compiled and also forwarded to the Planning Commission to inform their discussions at these community workshops. And all members of the public are also invited to participate in each of the workshops. And you'll also be able to attend the Board of Supervisors hearing when the actual plan amendment work program is decided on, and that will also be a public hearing. So tonight is not the last chance that you will have to provide us with feedback. And if you have any questions, again, you can reach out to us at the email address dpdsspa@fairfaxcounty.gov. And we also encourage you to take a look at some of the other information that's provided on our county websites, including a survey that you can participate in on at https /engage.fairfaxcounty.gov/2025 SSPA. And on behalf of the Fairfax County Department of Planning and Development, and also Supervisor Palchik's Providence District Office, I thank everyone for participating tonight. It's great discussions. And with that, we can end tonight's meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you.